In the novel The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger, the theme of pain resonates throughout the book. How pain inflicts and affects Holden still continues to voice teens presently. The theme of pain is delivered through particular events and actions that occur throughout the book. Mental, physical, and emotional pain are different forms of pain that can be seen. Salinger perfects the theme of pain through the eyes of a 16-year-old and overall makes Holden an archetype for generations today. The message Salinger gives regarding pain is that individuals are naturally bound to act out, rebel, or look for comfort once pain is inflicted. We seek connection or refuge, and sometimes some people are unable to give us that. In the book, mental pain is depicted when he visits Mr. Spencer, which evokes anxiety in him, and how he goes to New York City by himself, and the death of his younger brother Allie, and how he deals with that grief. As for physical pain, Holden gets himself involved into various fights, such as with Stradlater, his roommate at Pensy Prep, and Maurice, Sonny's pimp. He also acts out as a result of Allie's death. It's very typical for Holden, as for any other teenager, to act out physically. Acting out is a way to purge emotion that's been built up. Lastly, his fight with Stradlater over Jane Gallagher, who was probably the only girl who he ever thought was genuine rather than phony. His experience with Sonny the prostitute and Stradlater's reaction of his written composition based off of Allie all contribute to what causes Holden pain.
The pain and struggle of the shift into adulthood connects Holden's emotional and intellectual life to the lives of young adults. During our teen years, our elders begin to expect more from us, and a lot of the time, we're not ready for those responsibilities. Holden tries to hold on to what gives him comfort during his time of change, which are his younger siblings, especially Allie, his deceased brother, who in his mind is still alive, as he constantly refers to his memories of him. We hold on because it hurts to officially detach ourselves from something that means so much that when that certain thing's gone, it feels like a part of us is missing as well.
Holden's psychology to teen angst in general still holds relevance to today. Teens today still share the same pain Holden did back then. In a podcast I listened to, Maria Donofrio from Staten Island talked about her daily struggle and main priority, picking out an outfit and whether her appearance would be attractive or acceptable to society. Just like Holden, teens today share anxiety in meeting society's standards or expectations.
I can empathize with Holden in terms of feeling hopeless and alone, but in our time those feelings have been exposed by our nation's leaders and icons, so we're basically expected to overcome that now that we've seen it's a common obstacle and it's possible. It's something everybody goes through, but that's unfair because everyone is different, and in times of struggle, it's difficult to see the light. In this age, we are very materialistic, and because of social media, it's much easier for us not only to find a place to fit in, but we also see things we didn't even know we wanted. Social network, materialistic values, and pre-planned futures are primary distractions which cause people to overlook depression and loneliness amongst young adults. This forces us to feign an "I'm fine, don't worry about me" appearance, and that's not healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. In the article Get a Life, Holden Caulfield, written by Jennifer Schuessler, she discusses how this is a competitive generation. More students worry over getting into a good college and having a successful future, though I'm concerned for the people like Sarah Mose from Queens, New York, who has potential and is willing to give her all, but fears that she'll be stuck in the same place, in the projects. Her best asset is her strong moral beliefs. If she saw someone not being treated right, she would stick up for them because it's the human thing to do. Nowadays, everyone is so concerned about themselves and their goal to achieve happiness and success. Most are clueless that they can find the best achievement and content through love and giving.
I believe that The Catcher in the Rye is a clever and well-developed book that has hidden meaning and a uniqueness to it, especially because of the way it was written and what generation it speaks for. It pushes the reader to think, but I don't think it is worthy of study in a contemporary American literature class. To me, the book is in simplistic terms depressing. Even though it speaks volumes and at some point in the book, majority of people will be able to somehow relate to Holden and his feelings, the book in its literal sense is about a boy who isn't exceptionally smart, is an outcast who is trying to find their place in this world, and by doing so, ends up in New York City and does insane things. While reading the book, you wait for Holden to have some sort of epiphany or climax or turning point regarding him breaking out of his shell and loneliness, and finally finding peace in the world with himself. But you don't ever reach that point, even through everything that he's been through or encountered. I believe it does define adolescence, but not the idea of coming of age. It defines adolescence because everyone reaches or has reached a certain time where they didn't feel like they fit in, they felt different amongst people who surrounded them, and struggled to find a purpose or a place to which they they belong to. But as Stephanie Savage says, she believed that The Catcher in the Rye wasn't a coming-of-age story, for Holden only survived rather than matured or made compromises to society. I doubt any teenager will be able to fully experience everything Holden did, an example, a prostitute or getting drunk underage at a bar, but I do understand the meaning behind those actions. I feel as though the book has been too exaggerated to be taught. Everyone at some point has felt what Holden has felt like, but not to the extreme of wandering off in the city by themselves. Maybe if the book were a bit more realistic and could have still portrayed the message it gave us, would it be deemed worthy of a study in a contemporary American literature class? Not that I don't think this book holds any importance, because I do believe Holden speaks in some ways to my generation as much as he has to previous generations, but the fact that the book doesn't demonstrate any progression of adolescence to adulthood from Holden is what holds me back.
I can understand why people would disapprove of Catcher in the Rye being taught to students due to several accounts of bodiness in the novel, though there's meaning behind those scenes if you look beyond them. They serve a purpose to emphasize Holden's loneliness and naivety. Catcher in the Rye, I believe, is still worthy of study in a contemporary American literature class. The narration of the novel is distinct. There is almost no other voice like it. Most importantly, it reaches out to older students in high school who could understand him and even relate to him, as he seems to have an opinion on just about everybody and everything that happens in his life. Holden's experience in The Catcher in the Rye defines adolescence and coming of age still, maybe not going as far as taking trips to the bars and hiring a prostitute, but it's just that feeling that you think that that's what you have to do when you're an adult. Teenagers will always be at that in-between stage. We're relieved and excited that we're finally old enough and we're closer to being treated like adults, but we're also found dispirited when we realize that we can't do something because we're too old for it. Just like when Holden had the urge to throw that snowball. He looked around for something he could throw it at, but everything looked so perfectly blanketed in snow, he didn't want to mess it up. This is a paradox because he's mature enough to stop himself from throwing the snowball and appreciate the beauty of nature, but he's naive to think that the still perfection of the scene would remain untouched. I can't speak for all generations, but in the time of The Catcher in the Rye, being a teenager wasn't as defined as it is now. Now there is a teen culture present, as Stephanie Savage said. Holden speaks to those of our generation who don't have a voice. Many PCAs for depression and insecurity have emerged. Most well-known are This Too Shall Pass and Stay Strong, formerly made famous by singer Demi Lovato, who was hospitalized for depression and decided to open up about her story to show that these incidents happen to everybody. In reality, though, for some, words are just words. They can't amount to the indescribable frustration and confusion we feel growing up. For readers who can empathize, this novel makes them feel not so alone or crazy. One thing we can learn from Holden Caulfield and the things that he failed to do is that if we allow ourselves to connect with others and maintain that connection through understanding, we could have something greater ahead of us.